Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by my good friend and esteemed colleague, my man Jeff Howe. On this episode of On Texas Football, we're going to preview the running back position. So I'm going to get into our pre-spring positional breakdowns. So we're going to do the running back position here. Shout out to our friends over at Von Lane. We'll give you a message from Von Lane a little bit ever, but this episode of On Texas Football brought to you by Von Lane. We'll tell you more about them a little bit later on in the program. All right, Jeff, let's start with the latest acquisitions for the Longhorns in the transfer portal at the running back position. All right, Relique Brown and Hollywood Smothers. And I think both of these guys are going to bring back the explosive element to the backfield. Texas was missing that, only with 12, 20-plus yard runs last season, and hell, quarterbacks accounted for a lot of those that I can remember. What are your thoughts about the latest acquisition? We can start with Relique Brown, and we'll work our way to Hollywood Smothers. But let's start with Relique Brown. What are your thoughts about him, how he is going to be utilized in the Texas offense?
He is so unique. Like, I've tried to find a comp for him, Rod, from previous Texas running backs. And, man, the closest thing I can come up with, maybe, and this is going back a ways, maybe like pre-injury Selvin Young. Like, that's kind of shot out of a cannon type guy. But he's so unique because – that offense that Arizona State runs, Kenny Dillingham's offense, Marcus Arroyo's the offensive coordinator, two really, really sharp minds. They use him in so many different ways. They'll run him, obviously from the shotgun. They'll put him next to the quarterback. They'll put him in the pistol. They'll motion him in and hand it off. Not even like a little flip pass. Like, they'll actually motion him in and hand it off from the backfield. So that way they get him on the move. They use him a lot in the passing game. Really kind of a check down option in the pass game for the most part, but he's really unique, right? But when his big deal is once he gets vertical and gets in the open field, it is really, really hard to catch him. And that's what I like the most about him is it's been a minute since Texas, he's comparable to Jaden Blue from that standpoint. I don't know that he's got like the elite top speed, that Jaden Blue has, but he's similar to once he can stick a foot in the ground and gets vertical and gets past the second level, he's probably ripping off a 20-30 yard run before you catch up to him.
Yeah, that would track with his explosive runs. I said earlier, Texas had 12 20-plus yard runs on the season. He had 12 on himself. He had 12 20-plus yard runs last season. That was tied for, I believe, fifth in the Power Four. So he's an explosive back. I agree with you about that. There's no question about that. He also, just talking about his explosive runs, he had 3 50-plus yard runs on the season, 2 60-plus yard runs. On the season. So he's what my man Coach Shipley would call a GoDaddy. So he brings a certain element. And I like what you said about the passing game. He had 46 targets, had 4 drops too. 46 targets. Only 3 of those were past like 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. Which actually for a running back isn't bad. I think in Sark's offense, I wonder who's going to be which one of these guys is going to be the guy that runs that Texas route, that runs the wheel route. Which one of those guys could it be in the offense? It's going to be one of them. Relique Brown right now seems like he may be the most likely, but it could be either one of those guys, depending on who Sark trusts the most in the passing game.
And granted, I haven't seen every snap Arizona State played with Relique Brown on the field last year, but it seemed like they left some meat on the bone with him in the pass game that could have been more diverse with the way they used him. And I know Sam Levitt's injury impacted kind of the way their offense ran last year. But the other thing I'll say about Relique Brown too, Rod, for a smaller, I use air quotes, smaller guy at 195, 200 pounds, he runs really physical. Like, he'll seek contact to the point where, man, if I'm Jabbar Jalouk, I might try to coach some of that out of him and be like, hey, you're really good making guys miss in space. You don't have to always lower your shoulder and try to be the tougher guy in this play. Like, and it's not even like a discretion is a better part of valor thing. Just be maybe just a little smarter runner. But like you said, the explosiveness, I would just like Relique Brown to see him do a little more, trying to maybe make a guy miss than just seeking out contact sometimes the way he seems to do.
53 forced missed tackles on the season, which is also, I think it's top 12 in the Power Four. So you're right, those guys, he's not afraid of contact. And I wonder, he's been missing one of those guys that can run, the inside zone concepts they want. I'm not saying he's going to be a power back or downhill power element to the run game, because Texas doesn't really have that right now. Maybe they do. We'll talk about that in the running back room potentially as we continue to preview it. But the inside zone is something they want to find a running back that can run it, that's good at it. They got a couple guys that run the outside zone. Even when they had Cedric Baxter, they had someone that could run some of their power concepts. Obviously, the injury played a big role there in hindering how effective he could be. But they want to find some run. The outside zones are bread and butter. But they need to find somebody that can run the inside zone, and they need to find somebody that can run their power concepts. That's the ultimate complementary element. And I do wonder if Relique Brown will go back and watch it a little more and see if maybe he can run some of those inside zone concepts that Texas wants to run a little bit more of. They don't run it because they don't trust any of their running backs to be able to execute it effectively.
Yeah, and again, going back to Arizona State's run game, they're really diverse in what they do. I mean, they run some inside zone, some outside zone. They'll run some gap schemes, power. They'll run duo. So pretty much that, I guess, for if you hear this all the time about quarterbacks, when Relique Brown gets into this offense and really starts learning it, he'll have all the answers to the test because there's probably not a run game scheme between, you think about the two offenses he's been in, Rod. He's been in Lincoln Riley's offense and he's been in Kenny Dillingham's offense. So he's going to most likely have all the answers to the test once he gets in the film room and starts applying this offense.
It's good stuff. I like that. All right, let's move on to Hollywood Smothers, the other running back the Longhorns acquired via the transfer portal. Love the name, by the way. It's fantastic. Hollywood Smothers, fantastic. Great. Love it. Can't wait to see what Craig Way does with it when he's running for touchdowns. But like I said, once again, I don't know if he's as explosive as Relique Brown, but to me, he brings some of that, the patience and the vision with this running game. And I think he's got really good. I think if you look at the way he runs through contact, the way he absorbs contact, I think he does that really well as a running back too. I mean, there's a lot to like about him. And he's got some explosive runs on his resume from this past season too.
For a guy that's a little bit on the leaner side, contact balance is really good with him. And very rarely will the first guy bring him down. So that's what I like about him. But I think from a scheme fit, Rod, if you just look at like what we've known of the Texas run game under Sark to this point, if you look at scheme fits, that's why Relique Brown's so unique. It's I don't know exactly how he's going to fit in this offense, and that's not a bad thing. It's just he's such a unique guy that I think Sark, it's going to kind of force Sark's hand to be more diverse with the run game. If you look at what the Texas run game has been, man, Hollywood Smothers is a plug-and-play guy based on what NC State did, where they did run some gap and power stuff. They'll pull their guards a little bit, but a lot of that split flow that Texas likes to run with the tight end, a lot of inside zone, a lot of wide zone, and he's so patient. I hate to use the term, Rod, that he's like a better version of Trey Wisner, but I do think he gives you maybe a little bit more juice, maybe a little bit more patience, a little more burst, like pretty much all the stuff Trey did well. I think you just tick it up a notch, and that's what you've got with Hollywood Smothers. I love how he runs the outside zone. He's probably, other than maybe a guy like Bijan, who we know Bijan could fit into any kind of run game scheme you have. There's a reason why he's the best offensive weapon in football right now. I think other than Bijan, Hollywood Smothers are probably the best outside zone runner, pure outside zone runner Sark has had in this Texas offense. So I think from a scheme fit standpoint, it is plug and play with Hollywood Smothers.
Yeah, and we're talking about diversifying the run scheme, but their bread and butter is always going to be the outside zone. That's just what Sark, that's just part of his offensive identity. But they want to be more effective running some of the other power concepts and have a change up, if you will, when teams can and do stop Texas outside zone run game. What's interesting about Smothers is I talked about Relique Brown and how, he had 12, 20 plus yard runs. That's more than Smothers. Smothers had 9. He had more 10 plus yard runs than Smothers. Strangely enough, but Smothers has more 30, 40, and 50 yard runs than Relique Brown. I don't make it make sense. But these guys are just really close in their productivity from last season. You look at yards after the catch, yards after contact. They're both 600, 607, and 614. So I think I can't wait for the pony package with these two guys in it. I do believe, and that's why it kind of reminds me of 2024. I've said that before, that the way that Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue were used in that pony package, it was one of the best. I think one of Sark's kind of best alterations of it, if you will, in the pony package. The way he used it, and I don't think he intended it to be like that, because I think he wanted Cedric Baxter to be a part of that, and that just didn't work out because of the injury. But this group, this duo, I think can be a very similar, effective and explosive duo to the Trey Wisner, Jaden Blue duo in that pony package.
Yeah, and the thing with Smothers is when you look at those big runs he popped out, a lot of those were kind of short yardage situations, actually, where everything is kind of mucked up. And again, he's so elusive, he's so patient, he's got such good vision that all he needs is a little bit of space. And then boom, when he's out, it's basically him and a safety, and the safety's having to run him down from, a 20-yard behind the ball angle. That's where some of those 40, 50-yard runs he can pop off. But again, just for what Sark wants this offense to be, and again, I think Texas, again, has been too wide zone dependent the last few years, but that's going to be, as you said, the bread and butter. It's going to be the staple concept in the run game. He is I don't know that they could have gotten a better fit. Losing Trey Wisner and replacing him with Hollywood Smothers, I think from just a raw physical tool standpoint, I think you got the same guy, only you upgraded in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Texas, before we move on to the other some of the other guys here in the running back room, Texas the only program I can find now with 2 running backs that have from last season, from 2025, at least 48 missed tackles, and for both running backs, at least 600 yards after contact for both running backs. And if you look at least 9 20-plus yard runs. Tech is close with their duo in the backfield. Michigan, Louisville was close in that conversation, but Texas the only one. Just right now, look what's with the portal. Once the portal madness is done, maybe that'll change. But right now, that's the only one I can find.
And I think the benefit these guys are going to have too, Rod, one is playing with each other. 2 is the weapons Texas is going to have on the perimeter. So that way you can't load the box to stop the run. So they have room to work. And neither one of these guys has had a +1 in the run game like Texas will have with Arch Manning. So you combine all those things together, man, it was a really, really good thing, I think, for both of these guys to pick Texas coming out of the transfer portal.
Oh, good stuff. All right, moving on to some of the guys who also may be trying to contribute and play a role in this running back room. Let's talk about Derrick Cooper, the young phenom coming in from Florida. I mean, 6'2", 210. A lot of people believe that if this young man kind of comes in and really is ahead of the game and can really I think be productive early on and impress early on, earn the trust of the coaches early on, that he may be a part of the running back rotation. What are your thoughts about Derrick Cooper coming in?
Well, the thing that why I like Texas getting Relique Brown and Hollywood Smothers is you don't need to pigeonhole Derrick Cooper into a role. You don't need him to come in and be like, hey, we got to get you 8 to 12 carries. You can use him situationally as you need to, and basically take kind of one thing that you feel like he can do well right off the bat and just have him get really good at doing that one thing before you expand his scope of the offense. And I think right off the bat, Rod, I think based on what the high school tape has shown and talking to people around the program, what they feel he can be, I think he's going to be that inside zone runner, that physical thumper between the tackles on inside zone runs. I think that's going to be his role right off that. Not to say he won't do the other stuff or you can't use him in the pony package or throw him the ball or whatever, but I think that's going to be his role right out of the gate where he can really get his feet wet on stuff that he can handle. It's going to be kind of maybe the closest thing in terms of from a scheme fit going from high school to college. So really easy. Just give him something that he can handle, let him get his feet wet and expand his scope of the offense from there.
And Texas has done that actually with kind of power backs, guys who can bring the power element to the run game. Strangely enough, out of Florida. CJ Baxter early on could do that, to fulfill that role. Even a Jarrett Gibson early on, before he lost the trust of the coaches, was able to fulfill that role a little bit. So I agree with you. It's a great point about Derrick Cooper. And I mean, there's a lot to like about watching the young man's film. So who's going to be the third running back? Basically the question that we're going through with all these guys we're about to talk about now. We know Smothers and Relique Brown are your top 2. Who's going to be the third running back? Is it a young Derrick Cooper? Is it Michael Terry? Let's talk Michael Terry for a second. Talk about the big history in the running back room for a second. Third, is it possible? See, this is the thing about Michael Terry. I think he's in a unique position. He doesn't even have to actually win the third running back job to see the field. Because Sark has shown us that with guys who have very unique skill sets, a Keelan Robinson, a Ryan Niblett, that he'll create if he likes you. Like you gotta like you. He liked Niblett because he liked the way Niblett grinded on special teams and that kind of stuff. He liked Keelan Robinson because he was fast. All right, but if he likes you, he'll create a boutique package for you. But he brings you out there for 2 plays, whatever, 3 plays a game. And he did that with Keelan Robinson, did it with Ryan Niblett this past season. Can Michael Terry earn that kind of trust and favor with Sark? Because he's got that kind of skill set and he's got that type of multiplicity in his skill set. He could he be that guy, even outside the third running back role, be that boutique back for him?
Yeah, you bring up Keelan Robinson, and to your point, I think people might forget, like Jonathan Brooks on that 2022 offense, he was the number 3 running back, but Sark had, they used that diamond formation, that 30 personnel package with 3 running backs in the backfield. He'd get Keelan Robinson out there, or he'd get him in the pony package with either Bijan or Rojo. So yeah, to your point, he may not be number 3 on the depth chart, but he may be getting the 3rd, 4th most snaps of anybody in that room by the time it's said and done. I think, Rod, for him, the bowl prep might have benefited him maybe more than anybody in the program, because he really got to sink his teeth in the running back position. And go back and watch the Citrus Bowl. There are like 3rd and 4th down, like high leverage snaps where he's on the field at running back, and you're having to ask him to pass protect and do things in critical situations. So I think from that standpoint, look, he came into Texas really raw, started out as a receiver, learned some of the receiver position. Now he's learning running back. Whether they find a home for him in his 2nd year on campus or not, I think the fact that he was able to get his feet wet in a bowl game where, yeah, you want to win the bowl game, but let's face it, it's an exhibition. That's what non-CFP bowl games are at this point. But you got him on the field in some high leverage situations against an opponent like Michigan. Hopefully that'll give him some confidence that he can spin forward in the spring ball. I think he's really got a chance to take off. Can he? Yes. Will he? I don't know. That he's going to be one of the fun kind of X factors to watch in the spring ball. But I love the progress he made, Rod, during bowl prep. Big
spring for Michael Terry. I think we can all agree. Just because, trying to find his role, how he's going to contribute on the offense. Maybe it doesn't end up being at the running back position. Who knows?
It might not.
Yeah, but I do think he can end up kind of winning that, like I said, that boutique role with Sark, where he designs plays specifically for you because he likes you that much. Does he like Michael Terry that much? We'll see. Let's talk about James Simon. How about James Simon for a second? Because, we talk about that outside zone, which is kind of Texas's bread and butter. That's their staple run concept. He's one of those guys that runs that play naturally well. Like he actually has good vision and patience with it. That's one of the things I think that the coaches like about James Simon, but also another big spring for him in terms of, is he the guy that can win the 3rd running back job? Has he earned the trust of the coaches to that extent?
See, I think once you get to, past those top 3, and we'll put Derrick Cooper in the top 3 kind of with an asterisk, right? Because he's a true freshman. But I think with Michael Terry and James Simon, how they develop, I think a lot of it's going to be, where is their confidence during spring practice? Because James Simon, there was a point, Rod, early in the year where he looked like the best and healthiest running back on the roster. And by the time you got to SEC play, he was pretty much a non-factor. So where is his confidence right now? And I think for all these guys in the room, and Rod, you've gone through this as a player. Anytime you have a position coach change, it's a chance really for you to start with a fresh slate. Now, Jabbar Jalouk was with these guys during the bowl game, but you really get a chance to kind of start anew, turn the page, and see, kind of let the chips fall where they may. So with James Simon and Michael Terry, and James Simon, like you said, he can run the outside zone. I think he can run the inside zone. Again, we saw him get some of those hard yards between the tackle that were, quite frankly, hard to come by early in the season. We saw him picking up some of those in some of those non-conference games. So I just hope his confidence is in a place where his game can grow this spring.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about his confidence. Last running back we'll discuss in that running back room is Jet Walker, another coming in with Derrick Cooper in that latest recruiting class. Jet Walker, though, I'm a hometown kid because he transferred to Georgetown, I believe, late, right? And ended up playing for them, and ended up having a monster junior year. And I think he averaged over 10.8 yards per rush as a junior. Freaky numbers. Over 2,300 yards. And throughout his career, I think he was at 9 yards per rush in his career. So, dude, don't act like he's some kind of scrub coming in. I don't want it to seem like that at all. Jet Walker was highly productive coming to high school and was a really explosive player coming out of high school. What do we think the Jet Walker? I love his name, by the way. Another great name Texas has in that running back room. What do we think is going to be his role for the Longhorns? Is it just mostly special teams contributor as well right now for him?
I think he can take the Trey Wisner path. Think about Trey Wisner's true freshman year in 2023, right? The backfield's loaded. It's tough for him to get carries. How did he earn his stripes? By going down there and throwing his body around on kickoff coverage, throwing his body around on punt coverage. And I think Jet Walker, with the size speed ratio he's got, Rod, is key. Like he's perfect to be a core special team. 6'2", about 215, 220, a straight line runner. Yeah, he's got the perfect build for a guy that you want to be a core special teamer. Right now, in terms of the run game, if you wanted a guy who just can put his head down and just will hammer people between the tackles and short yardage, that's one thing he can do. He's got a little bit of wiggle, but between the tackles, C gap to C gap, thumping inside, that's probably going to be where, if he gets his hands on the ball, that's probably going to be where he helps his team the most. But I think right now, initially, it'll be on specials. And I think he's a really good culture guy from this standpoint. You got a kid from Georgetown, grew up 45 minutes from campus. He had the Vince Young jersey growing up. Him and his dad went to UT games. Like this, in the NIL era, Rod, it's really hard to still find some of those guys that this was their dream, their childhood dream, to play for fill in the blank school. It's been Jet Walker's dream since he started playing football to play for the University of Texas. And I think in the NIL era, in the rev share era, where loyalty is pretty much non-existent, it really helps you if you can get a couple of those guys in your locker room that would have crawled on broken glass from their front door to get that offer you had for them.
That's a great point. I agree with you on that 100%. All right, great stuff there, Jeff. Let's thank our sponsor, Von Lane, before we end things. We appreciate Von Lane, and you will as well. Now that the holidays are over, it's time to get back to business. That means the packed travel calendars, meetings, conferences, and I know some of you out there still taking the hard way to get to where you need to be. You're driving yourself, dealing with road rage and dealing with traffic and dealing with the general stress level of trying to get yourself from point A to point B. Also, if you're trying to fly those shorter routes between major Texas cities, that can also be a hassle. TSA can be a hassle, and delayed flights can be very stressful. Then you're dealing with the jet lag. Folks, our friends at Von Lane provide a much better experience, first-class travel experience on the ground. You board in minutes at a private hotel terminal, settle into one of just 22 oversized leather seats. You enjoy complimentary Wi-Fi, beverages, snacks, and hot towel service on every trip. And on select departures, Von Lane also offers complimentary meals. And if you need to work, our friends over at Von Lane are also upgrading all of their coaches. With Starlink internet access across the entire fleet, which is going to make their wireless even more reliable and faster as well. So you can get a lot of work done on the Von Lane, or you can just relax and sit back and enjoy the ride. Von Lane serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, also Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, Knoxville. And if you're traveling with a team, you can charter your own Von Lane, designing the trip from pickup to drop off. Visit vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com. And if it's your first time riding, you can enter the code OTF26, that's OTF26 at checkout to receive $20 off your first trip with Von Lane. That's Von Lane, your private jet on wheels. All right, thank you very much to our friends at Von Lane. Thank you, Jeff, as well. Great stuff. Appreciate all the knowledge. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP. Nobody does it better. For Jeff and for Matthew and our friends at Von Lane, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.